I'm going to tell you everything you need to know about the starting heroes for the Godforge Alpha and their kits that have been shared with us by Simon and the Fateless team. Hi, I'm Charlemagne. I'm a 5-year free-to-play Ray Shadow Legends player that has not only cracked the code on what it means to succeed in a gacha game without spending, but I've seen the good, bad, and ugly when it comes to the gaming community. Now, let's talk about those heroes. All heroes are exactly what we thought they would be: Guan Yu, Ramses, and Lady Jacques. Now, all of these heroes are going to be of the rare affinity, and they're all attack-based champions. And so if you were thinking that you were going to start with some support champion to kind of help you in the long game, that's not exactly what's going to be available to us. Each of these heroes has the leader ability of increasing the attack of the party by 20%. That means that each of these heroes is going to help increase damage at the beginning of the game and not necessarily increase survivability. But one of them might, and more on that later. These three heroes are all going to have some kind of ability that helps them stand out. Now, in Godforge, each hero has a basic ability, a core ability, an ultimate, and a passive that helps them stand apart. It's important to note that passives can be used in attuning weapons. I'm pretty sure that's not the exact language, but basically, a hero's passive can be imprinted onto a weapon and given to another hero. So you may also want to be thinking about that if there are other aspects of the game or other heroes you're hoping to be able to use later down the road, that these heroes' passives can boost that in the future. Now, I'm sure you're also wondering that as I've been analyzing these heroes, which ones I'm going to pick, and I'm going to walk through that exactly at the end, so stick around. Just a reminder, guys, I am a young channel, so every subscription matters. Drop a like and subscribe down below, and let me know which hero are you going to be starting with. Now, Simon started with Guan Yu, and you're going to see his abilities down to the left, so make sure and pause the video if you want to take the time to read through all of them. These three abilities are very similar in style to the other three heroes. We get a basic single attack, we potentially have some form of AoE, and then the ultimate applies some kind of debuff that the rest of the kit benefits from. Guan Yu's abilities all seem to rely on the Drain debuff, and that seems to be a debuff that applies some type of lifesteal to the enemies. This could increase the survivability of Guan Yu, and why some people may start with him. Notice here that his passive is that he deals 20% extra damage to enemies under Drain. If you want to use Drain across your entire team, he may be a great starter hero for you because you could pass that passive along to a weapon, apply it and give it to a new hero, and increase their damage if they are better at applying Drain to the enemy team. As we move on to Lady Jacques, you're going to see a lot of the same language when it comes to the breakdown of her kit. Her first attack will be a single attack, her second will be an AoE, and her third will have that chance of placing the debuff that the rest of her kit benefits from. Her passive as well is going to increase damage on enemies who are bleeding. And so again, if you want to utilize bleed in your entire team, she will be a great starting hero to pick if you want to imprint her onto a weapon and then use that weapon on a stronger hero. Notice here that Guan Yu's core ability reduced the cooldown of the skill, whereas Lady Jacques actually just applies the buff of increasing her speed. You'll notice as we get to the third character that the core ability does something similar yet again, but a different iteration. I think this is an example of Fateless testing the waters as to what players really want, because at the end of the day, the debuffs that they are applying are going to have similar effects, but they're slight variations. And the core ability is the same way. They have the same effects in a sense, but they are slight variations, iterations on the same concept. Decreasing of cooldown, increasing speed, and the next one you'll see, well, we'll get there in a second. I would imagine the bleed ability on Lady Jacques' skills has more to do with damage over time rather than bringing life back to the hero. So she may be a very good damage dealer, but she's not going to be sustaining herself with any form of lifesteal. However, you'll note here that the bleed language says stack. And so this very well could be something that could have the potential to grow and grow. And so when it comes to long fights, or bosses, or even the infinite boss, bleed, if it truly does stack, while I'm sure there's probably a limit, it could really ramp up damage in the long run. Now we move on to Ramses, one of the original heroes and designs developed by the Fateless team. And as Simon says, and I would agree, he still looks pretty cool. His abilities and animations still look great. Now, I will say that some of these things do require some work still, but I am not concerned. I'm sure that some of these animations and the smoothness of his abilities are going to be worked on in the future, but I'll be having a video about that soon just to kind of talk through the state of their animations and what I'm hoping to see between now and the full launch. Ramsey's skill breakdown to my left is going to be the exact same in style to the other two heroes. A basic attack, a core ability that hits all enemies, and then an ultimate that applies the debuff that the rest of his kit benefits from. In Ramsey's case, acid is the debuff that he depends on, which can commonly be understood to be poison. At least that would be my assumption. These debuffs are going to apply and are known to be a great source of damage over time, as they potentially scale off of the enemy max HP rather than some set amount of damage. Notice here that acid is used as a placement of a debuff, whereas bleed indicated a stack. So, what that means is that there will probably only be a certain amount of acid that can be placed, so many debuffs that can be placed on an enemy at once. And so I would assume that each debuff placed of acid is going to be the same amount of damage, and that damage will initially at least be more damage than bleed. I believe that bleed will probably require time to be able to amp up its damage, but potentially could be the highest damage output over time as we are talking about stacks over just placed debuffs. However, if you have a team that needs to place debuffs and move on quickly and cause as much damage as possible, then acid is probably going to be what you're going to want to rely on. Just like the other heroes, Ramsey's passive relies on the debuff to be placed that then causes more damage. And so if you want to look at using acid more often and using that as the kind of the core debuff on your team to maximize long-term damage, Ramsey is going to be a great pick because you'll be able to apply his passive to a weapon and give that weapon to another hero to really boost their damage, especially if they happen to be a good damage dealer that can also apply more acids than Ramsey's can. So you've seen the heroes and you've seen their kits. Which one will you choose? For me, I'm actually a little undecided, but I would say that it's out of the ranking of three, Guan Yu would be my least favorite hero. I understand that Drain could be a great ability, but I'm playing for the long game here, and I want to be able to get to that infinite damage boss and apply maximum damage, because I know that when it comes to rewards and kind of bragging rights in the end of the day, there's going to be plenty of us there that are going to be able to get to that boss, but applying maximum damage there is really what's going to help us stand out from the rest of the pack. And so while bleed is new and it could be interesting, I may not necessarily rely on that either. So I may go for the tried and true acid damage of Ramses, and I believe that I'm going to be picking him as my starter hero as I proceed into the Godforge Alpha. What hero are you going to pick, and what is your plan for the beginning of the Alpha? If you want to learn more about the Alpha and what Fateless has planned for the remainder of 2025, check out this video next. It's a full breakdown of everything we know as we look towards what's going to be happening in the near future. Now we know the heroes and we know the starting kits. Let's get ready for the Alpha.